So, it says live. I don't see any place for comments. So if people leave comments, I'm going to go answer them later. It says live producer because it says use camera and it says live producer and it says go live with others. I need to figure out how to do that sometime. Okay, in live video. There's where it's okay. So I'm going to make this big. What does that say? It's a. Uh-oh. I do. I clicked on a little line. Live. Okay. 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 Comments would be over there if anybody wants to say anything. Okay, so this is part two. Part one was talking about court a little bit, but talking about Fran Bush, who's a school board member. I don't think she's my school board member. I don't know who your school board member is if your kid's in a magnet school. Maybe that's the appointed one. Okay, so let me say, um, going through some records. I've got, see, you learn so much when stuff gets, you subpoena stuff and you get it. One thing I did not understand from the order from 2015 was why they said, let me see if I can find it. Okay, yeah, the one from 2015. Well, I don't have it here. 2017, but it said something. It was like the one that was really complicated. So I can't really fault. I really can fault uh, Court of Appeals for some things that they did, like they said they did say, well, mother claims father is what bullying or whatever, but they didn't say give any examples of that. Oh yeah, let me take a minute to first of all to say this. First, if Sinan's going to watch this, and he is going to watch this, I'm sure he's going to watch this. I would say, Sinan, this has been going on too long. It's not working. It's not working for anybody. It's not working for you. I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry that you're suffering from whatever demons that are haunting you, from whatever, if it was childhood trauma that you never got addressed. There's nothing, I mean, that's one thing I always talk about mental health, and, I'm open about my mental health issues. There's no shame in admitting that you've struggled. And I mean, it makes me want to cry. I mean, I hope I don't cry. I hope I don't cry. I feel so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I'm going to cry. My nose is burning here. Okay, hold on. I am so sorry that you were abused the way you were abused in court by the DA, by the judges that ruled in your favor, by Sarah Rice Digby, by the guardian ad litem, all the people who told you you were right and righteous and doing the right thing for Delara and that I was the enemy. I'm sorry that they fed into, instead of helping you to be a better person, instead of helping you address your issues. It's obvious, and I think it would be obvious to anybody, because a lot of people want to think that you were a bad person, and this just brought out your true nature. I do not believe that for a minute. I believe you're a good person at heart. I believe you have good intentions at heart, but I believe you are mentally ill. And there's no shame in that. There is no shame in saying I'm sick. Just like if you had diabetes, it doesn't do any good to say I'm not I'm not diabetic when you are, and refusing to take your insulin or whatever because you don't believe you've got diabetes. It'll destroy you. And whatever it is, if you're in denial about, I'm telling you, people who are reasonable and don't have an agenda and who look at both sides of the story will say this is very sad and unfortunate. And Delara, you're suffering, whether you realize it or not. You are suffering, whether you want to admit it or not. And Delara is suffering, whether you want to admit it or not. And it's not my fault. whether you want to admit it or not. And I think you should get a full psychological evaluation. Um, Dr. Phil, says, "Oh, I was a forensic psychologist." I don't. I really think to get to the bottom of this, we've only got 6 years to turn Delara around to where she can achieve the potential she was born with, or close to it. Nobody completely achieves everything, I guess, but I'm begging you. I'm begging you right now. You can end all this court mess. I'm not going after you. I'm not trying to make you out to be a monster. I never have. I never will. But if I've got to choose between making you feel bad and making Delara continue to suffer, I'm gonna go pick Delara's side every time. And but I want to make it clear that I don't think this is 100% your fault. I blame the corruption in the system. I don't know if no judge, an ethical attorney should not be willing to break the law just because you pay them $60,000. They shouldn't do it, especially when they're the person on the other side is not able to defend themselves. I mean, that's just so bad. So Sarah Rice, I blame Sarah Rice. Um, Number one, I hope she never has kids. I really do. I didn't say exactly in court that day what she said I did, but yeah, I hope she never has kids. Um, she's probably a good dog mama. I guess it's probably appropriate since she's such a bitch. She's probably, that's dogs are probably the only um, mammals that she's prepared to raise in a healthy manner. So Sarah Rice, um, yeah, she's horrible. If nothing else, she doesn't need to be a CASA. Same thing with Charlene Pimac. They were probably your two biggest enemies. DCS was probably doing what the attorneys told him to do, and the judge was probably doing what DCS and the attorney friends wanted them to do. But anyway, that's not how it's supposed to be, and this is not the America. This is not an example of America. It might be more typical of what goes on in Turkey. You might think it's okay, but it's not. This is America, and uh, the lawyers and judges in this case didn't act like it. So that's my apology to him. We're running out of time with Delara, but I'm going to move on to some things in the case that I've noticed. That was my admonition and encouragement to Delara's dad. I mean, we don't have to do this. It's stressful. The best thing to do is um, just say, this isn't working. Let's try it. Try it my way. Try it my way, please, just for a little while. Give me till the end of September. I think I could transform Delara in 6 months. Really, I think I could get her back on track. I can't help her heal from all that's been taken from her, but I think she'll be able to function in an academic magnet school. I think she'd. I mean, with her, um, what not what's been damaged, but if we can get her back to where she was, I think she would do great in school. She's a far more outgoing than I think Noah was something on the student council at Megs, but Delara, she's got such potential if you just turn her loose and set her free to accomplish it. Okay, so what the thing I noticed here lately was I always wondered from the October 15th order why they said that mother would only be involved in Delara's mental health or counseling as far as the counselor said that she could. And I'm like, none of the counselors have ever indicated that they don't want to talk to me or they don't want me to be involved in Delara's therapy. So I didn't know where that came from. I found out where that came from now. So where that came from was Carrie Loy, who was the first counselor that Delara had. She had her for several months. So Carrie, they got to know each other really well. Probably she was closer to Carrie than anybody besides Dr. Berryman. that I know of. She saw Dr. Berryman a lot longer than she saw Carrie, but Carrie was very nice and very responsive, and she would call me and discuss things with me. I remember one time she called me and she told me that Delara was kind of acting silly, and I offered, well, she might be doing that because she's anxious, and she agreed with me. She, that we discussed that together. We both thought maybe that's a sign of her having some anxiety about something. And anyway, so I'm just saying that Carrie Loy and I, um, she didn't have any trouble with me. Very nice. She's very cooperative. She's moved to California. She's been very willing to testify in court. The problem was we tried to call her and missed her or something, but all of her notes her case notes and affidavit were admitted into evidence as an exhibit in this most recent trial, the one that's over now. Okay, so here's what it said. So these are emails. August 17th, Sinan sent an email to Carrie Loy and attached the new insurance card. And then September 8th, here's what Carrie Loy says. She says, Mr. Gadir, I will need a copy of your custody arrangement for our records. Would you be able to scan them and send them to me? Also, Delara's mother requested I call her. Is it permitted by the custody arrangement for me to do so? Did she say, your mother, Miss Hubbell's really getting on my nerves. Would you tell her to back off? Would you get a order telling her she can't call me? So then, let's see, that was from Carrie Lloyd to Delara's dad, and then Delara's dad sent to his lawyer. No, he sent it. Yeah, copy. What was it? Let's see. Wrote Carrie. Okay, wrote back to Carrie. A copy of the order of protection is attached. I am not sure if it is permitted. Now, see, the order of protection was expired. See, no, it wasn't. Yeah, the one that had Delara on it, that he used to totally win the custody modification, that would have been in effect from June 15th to for a year. So she was wondering, will she get in trouble for talking to me? So Delara's dad said, a copy of the order of protection is attached. I'm not sure if it is permitted. Court order states in case of medical emergencies that she can communicate with the healthcare provider, and doesn't say anything else. And then he copied Sarah Rice. Sarah Rice Digby Family Law. Is Lydia allowed to communicate with Dolores' therapist? And then Sarah Rice responds to both of them saying, under the original custody order, which would have been the 2015, October 15, 2015 was when it was filed, Lydia certainly has a right to speak with Dolores' therapist, and under the order of protection, Lydia is not necessarily barred from contacting Dolores' therapist. Now listen to this. Ugh, this made me so mad. And explained everything. It is more of a matter of whether Miss Loy wishes to speak with Miss Hubbell, given Miss Hubbell's history. Okay, see, listen to this. They're acting like this is true. Given Miss Hubbell's history of harassing teachers, CASA, guardian ad litem, etc., once she is permitted to contact them. Miss Loy, we have a hearing set for next Tuesday, at which the judge is expected to announce what the custody arrangement will be moving forward, and that's the same custody arrangement that was filed October 15th. I am happy to ask for clarification on that day as to the extent of permitted communication. So she announced the order orally September, and then it was filed October 15th, and there was a written order September 15th. I can go back and watch the video, though. Okay, and then Carrie Loy says, this was September 23rd. That other last email was the 8th. Just following up to see if there are any new developments from the court date that Sarah references below. As Mom has contacted me twice now, I want to keep abreast of any developments regarding what I can and cannot disclose. And she made the phone call what it was about and stuff. But they didn't ever say in there, Sarah Rice says that the mother has a history of harassing teachers, CASA, guardian ad litem, etc. once she's permitted to contact them. Now you could talk to Harpeth Hall, you could talk to Maxwell Elementary, you could talk to Harpeth Hall, you could talk to most of the people at Cole, except the ones when Delara went there. You could talk to Hume Fogg. You could talk to Meg's Magnet School, Dr. Underwood, same principal that when Noah was there. You ask them, did any teachers complain? Was I harassing any teachers? Did I give anybody a hard time at all ever? And the answer is no. And I was a member of the PTO. I volunteered when I could. I went to recitals, and my son was in wrestling. Mr. Parsons, okay, and he was on the Noah was on the bowling team at Hume Fogg. I never caused problems. I did sometimes communicate with. I never harassed. Nobody ever said, you know, complained to the principal, Miss Hubble's harassing us. So what about my good history? What about my good history with two kids that I was primary parent of, and Delara's dad worked full time. He's a principal full time. I was the primary parent, and he came to once or twice to tournaments. He came to orchestra recital when no one played cello. But as far as um, getting him to school, and they never really had big problems, but I there were no problems because I'm a good mother, and they and Delara's Callie and Noah's dad was a good dad. We were responsible, uh, good parents, and nobody was getting in the way and hurting our kids. And there were no problems. Now, I had no problems. There's not one teacher I complained about. And I wasn't complaining about the teachers at Cole. I was honestly, send notes home about Delara. The biggest ones was in the reading block, and Delara was goofing off and not doing, arguing and trying, bossing the other kids around or stacking the sight words, not following the rules of the activity. She was trying to be creative with them because she already knew how to read. All my kids in kindergarten, I think Noah, when he was in kindergarten, I think Miss Biggs said, well, we know he's reading on a fifth grade level, but our test doesn't go higher than that. So Delara, um, the her Bible class teacher, when Delara was in kindergarten, and that first trial, Kathy said, and Delara was reading Abeka fourth grade books. I got them from the used bookstore, and that's why I knew that I knew she's in kindergarten. She was reading fluently and with understanding, a good comprehension of what she was reading. But Kathy McGee, who taught Delara in Bible class, testified in the uh, about how well I was teaching Delara, and Delara was reading the Bible lesson to her in the class, when she was 4 or 5 years old. So, yeah, I think that was when she was 4. Delara was reading the lesson. So, Delara, and I told everybody, and see what Delara's dad said is, Mom wants to homeschool, so she's encouraging, and there's an email, I got to get that out for Magistrate Robertson and show him. He said that I encouraged her to misbehave because I thought she'd get kicked out of school and then I could get my way and homeschool. That is not, that's, see, is he lying or is he delusional? I don't know. But and I don't think, obviously Miss Cart at Gower, I mean, I was very, and she said she believed I was sincere when I was trying to get Delara help so that she would do better in school, not so that she could get kicked out and be homeschooled. I mean, she needed me, but Callie and Noah, they were academically advanced, they were intellectually gifted, um, and different personalities from Delara, different energy levels. But I believe if they had just let me, I mean, I said, just let me have kindergarten, okay? Let me do the compulsory kindergarten because she's going to be bored if you send her. And Noah was kind of bored, but he was too, he wasn't, he wasn't like hyperactive, and he was more laid back, his personality and stuff. And Callie was, more quiet, and she was like me. She always just had a book to do, and the kids just did what they were told, and never any problems, out of not anything that was reported. So when they say that I'm harassing teachers, I'm trying to get information and give them information so that my child's needs would be met. So they totally mischaracterized that. That was just so mean. When I read this, I'm like, of course I knew that they were I've got other evidence of them saying things that weren't true, and trying to prejudice people against me that they thought, could get on their side and come to court and repeat their lies, basically. And sometimes that's what happens. It's like, um, but see, that's why the burden of proof is on them, and the standard of proof. They have to have definite evidence. The judge is supposed to make specific findings based on definite evidence. Not and somebody's belief isn't definite evidence. An expert witness sometimes carries a lot of weight, but in my case, the expert witnesses that supported my side were ignored. You wouldn't find any of their testimony that supported my side. You won't find that mentioned anywhere in any court documents, any court opinions. So this is just how messed up stuff is. Um, oh yeah, here's the other thought. I wanted to read the rest of this. And then this is horrible too. And so this was September 24th. So this was a day after that last one. And Sarah Rice sent this to Sinan and to Carrie. Um, so she said, attached to this email is a copy of the recent order. So maybe the I gotta see, is there a unsigned September 15th order? I gotta go back and look. Attached to this email a copy of the recent order so that Carrie can reference it as well. When I brought up the issue in court, the judge said that she would not want to tell a therapist how to do his or her job. How about trying? How about Judge Calloway saying that she would not want to tell a fit, loving, nurturing, effective parent how to do his or her job? Because if they had not tried to tell me how to do my job parenting my daughter, we would not be in this mess. I think parents need, when children are doing well, which everybody's at the beginning, before they started uh, really messing with my parenting, everybody said how well Delara was doing. So they cut me out of her life. She goes nuts. And then I stay cut out of her life in any meaningful way. And then they say, well, Delara's not getting any better. And then they use that as an excuse to keep me out of her life. In fact, to cut me out of her life even more by not allowing me to have any information from the mental health providers or the teachers. Um, when I brought up the issue in court, the judge said she would not want to tell a therapist how to do his or her job. She said that it would be up to Carrie to tell Lydia how much communication with Carrie is appropriate. And then Sarah goes on to say, if Carrie, and she's sending this to Carrie, and copied Carrie on it. If Carrie wants to set a limit on one email per week, she is welcome to do so. So it's like Sarah's making suggestions on what boundaries Delara's therapist should put on me as her client's parent. It is specifically included in the order that Lydia needs to respect any boundaries set by Carrie. So if Carrie doesn't know what that means, Sarah's giving her hints, like tell Lydia not to send more than one email a week or whatever. If Carrie wants to say she does not feel comfortable discussing treatment other than to give a general statement about how she believes it to be going, that should also be fine. So Sarah, the judge, didn't want to tell the therapist how to do their job, but Sarah will make these suggestions as if the therapist can't decide for herself what's best for her client. As Carrie was, and Dr. Berryman too, they were both very, very responsive and helpful, and that's a boundary. That's a boundary that the lawyer and the judge should not cross. If Carrie Loy had a problem with me overwhelming her, then she could let me know. I mean, that's what people who have healthy communication skills do. Okay, now listen to this. This is Sarah Rice saying to Dolores' dad, copying Dolores' therapist on it. Realistically, it could be very helpful to Carrie in her treatment of Dolores to see the way Lydia communicates. From the statements of Casa and the guardian ad litem, who were both totally unnecessary. The only reason the guardian ad litem and Casa were brought into the custody modification was to try to overpower me, because without parent, it's not exactly what they said, but that's what they were trying to get out of him. Guardian ad litem was pretty bad. The Casa lady she wasn't too bad, but it was inappropriate for either one of them to be brought into the case, because this was not a neglect and abuse case at all. Homeschooling, especially when your child's been evaluated by the school psychologist and found to be mature for her age, cooperative, intellectually gifted, and academically advanced, you know, why do you have to have CASA come in and determine whether I was abusing or neglecting my child through homeschooling? And the guardian ad litem, it's the same thing. Um, there was no abuse or neglect, so why bring a guardian ad litem in? All it was getting more people against me. So the guardian ad litem's a lawyer, and then Sarah Rice is a lawyer. I didn't have a lawyer, and the CASA's pretty much their opinions. The CASA said a couple things, well, probably several things, um, but one of the things the CASA recommended was joint counseling. My therapist, and then you know, the judge thought I wasn't following uh, the recommendations of my therapist when I was, and he wrote a letter that said I was, and guardian ad litem saw that letter and had his phone number, and I was exceptionally compliant. There's not very many people who go to therapy that are exceptionally compliant, that go on their own and who really have issues that they want to deal with in a healthier manner. So this is just lies, that find, oh, we have concerns that mother's not following recommendations. Total lie. So the guardian ad litem, let's see what else. My side. I mean, the judge has some discretion, but we already had maximum parenting time for both parents. I wanted to keep the parenting time the same. He wanted me to have 0 parenting time. I wanted to keep my 185. Wanted to. I wanted to continue to have daily contact with her, because there's things on a daily basis you need to, deal with. And if you wait till tomorrow, you might miss an opportunity, or if you wait till next weekend or whatever. So there was no reason at all for them to take me from 185 parenting days to 0. There was no reason at all to give Dolores' dad 100% discretion, including how much parenting time I should have. They gave that judge gave that discretion to visitation. She gave that to Dolores' dad. Of course, he only have 0. I kind of wonder at the beginning if she knew how bad he was, and then later on when it was obvious that he wanted me to totally be erased from her life, maybe she didn't want to admit she was wrong the first time. I don't know, but oh, can't remember if I read this or not. Um, So, so Sarah says, realistically, it could be very helpful to Carrie in her treatment of Delara to see the way Lydia communicates. From the statements of Casa and the guardian ad litem, they seem concerned. So that's just Delara's, the lawyer's, seems, believe. There's nothing specific in here where, and the Casa and guardian ad litem could probably both contact. Well, Casa, I think Casa was out of the picture. But if they were concerned, they could contact Carrie directly. So that's what happens is people pass, it's hearsay or belief, and a belief is not definite evidence. So they've told all kinds of crazy stuff about me. From the statements of Casa and the guardian ad litem, they seem concerned that Delara will pick up some of Lydia's mannerisms and communication styles if they are not addressed early. Now, at the beginning of the custody modification, nobody had any concerns about the farther it gets along, and the more I see that they're being abusive and they're hurting my daughter, then I the more oppositional I got to, but I can't just go along with somebody doing stuff that's hurting my child and just say, okay, that's fine with me. I can't do that. So they hold it against me when I offer resistance. Okay, so to have Carrie observe Lydia's behavior could be helpful. Let me know if you have any more questions. I never met Carrie. Picked up records or something from Carrie. Very nice. She was just as nice in person, and I could tell that Delara liked her. But Carrie noted, I mean, in September, she noted in the case notes that Delara was sad and lonely and sad and worried and angry at her father for her father keeping her from her mom. She was worried about her mom, worried her dad had put her mom in jail, worried she'd never see her mom again. So I'm glad that she made notes of that, and it's in the record, and we brought it up in court, and everybody's ignoring that. So they'll ignore these observations by a therapist, but um, what seems to be concerning to the adversary, the opposing counsel, and the people that they brought in to give them some leverage over the actual facts and law in the case. That's just bad. So that's who knows. I think people should subpoena. Um, they should subpoena emails, and most of the time, they could say that it's confidential. They object to, if it's lawyer stuff, but this wasn't just sent to the lawyer. This was sent to an outside person. This was not privileged client, because she copied the therapist on it. And um, anyway, so this is relevant. It's very relevant to how they tried to go behind my back and prejudice people against me right from the start. Um, it's wrong. You shouldn't do that. You should focus on the child, not on making the other parent look like a monster. And that's why I don't make Delara's dad look like a monster, because he's not one, and I'm not one. Okay, so this explained that comment about you know, when I read that order from 2015, I'm like, why are they saying this about their I have to respect whatever boundaries the therapist puts up. Here that was. It took me, how many years did it take me to figure out what was going on in that? But okay, so that I made a list of things I wanted to address. Uh, okay, another thing was I got to check some videos too, but when it comes to the psych evals, I'm really thinking that DCS was trying to accuse me of causing psychological harm to Delara, because that's what Delara's dad was saying. Delara's mom is causing psychological harm. I know it. I see it. When she sees her mom, when she has contact with her mom, she acts bad. But when she's not seeing her mom, she does so much better. So, so he tells that to people, and then people look for ways to justify that and to verify that lie or delusion, instead of, nobody's well, yeah, actually I did have a lawyer. I have had lawyers, and I've gotten stuff in to the record myself, and it just gets ignored. And the whole reason, if it was just a difference in opinion of how the evidence was looked at, um, or how the judge viewed it, I wouldn't have had a good case on appeal, because judges do have discretion. But it is an abuse of discretion when the decision is way out of line for similar cases, which mine was. I could not find one single case anywhere near them putting these kind of restrictions on a parent under. I mean, I've seen people in much worse cases that didn't get the restrictions that I got, but I never saw all these kinds of restrictions when you've never been able to have any kind of definite proof of anything, and and the child wants to see me so bad, and she's told all these people, including therapists, she's distressed, she's upset, she's emotionally uh, troubled by being cut off from her mom. So my biggest thing with the Court of Appeals is the evidence that contradicted the findings was overwhelming. Overwhelming. And the Court of Appeals obviously also did not consider any of the evidence properly admitted into the record, any of the testimony that contradicted the judge's findings. That's my big issue. Okay, so people need to look at my case and know this kind of stuff goes on, and I don't think it just happens to me. And the really sad thing is I've got all this documentation, and I took it to the Court of Appeals, and it didn't help anything because they affirmed the lower court. But what it did affirm is that they didn't consider the evidence and the law that I brought up. They didn't. I mean, the law. I mean, it's like they'll mention it, like it's like I don't know if it's in my case or somebody else's, but when it was alleged that, and this does get done a lot. I've read a lot of cases where a parent says that an adverse custody or visitation ruling was made to punish the parent. And of course, the law says absolutely cannot use use custody or visitation to reward or punish a parent. So they'll say that. They won't look at the facts you brought up, but they'll quote that like like just quoting that says, of course they didn't uh, use the custody or visitation to punish the parent or reward the parent for good or bad behavior, because they're not allowed to do that. And I'm pretty sure that in my last Court of Appeals fail. That I had said, they did it in both custody modification appeals. They did not make specific findings based on definite evidence that I presented harm or substantial risk of harm to my child if my parenting was not restricted. So in my first appeal, they admitted that there was not specific findings, which the law required them to do, and there's no accountability if the judges don't do what they're supposed to do. They might get their findings reversed, but that doesn't make them follow the rules next time, because so few things go to appeal. It's really bad. We gotta find some way to make the judges follow the law. But yeah, so in my it's like, the judges have to make specific findings based on evidence. The red versus red. That's the one that's quoted in, it's a Court of Appeals case, but then they quote the Supreme Court in it, and everybody's supposed to follow the Supreme Court, and they don't, and even when stuff gets remanded because the judges at the trial court aren't following the rules, there's still never any negative repercussions. So there's no, and these rules are important for is a procedural due process. And so if they're not following these rules that are put in place to protect people's rights, those are constitutional violations. And why do they get away with it time after time after time? Okay, let's see what else I was going to say. Okay, the other thing was, so they blamed me because Delara wasn't better when I still wasn't ever in her life. Rejected all testimony that supported my side. Okay, and then the other thing was, I was thinking, and I've already shared about when I did my psych eval. It was a court ordered psych eval that was mentioned in the 2017 order. That's like, if you don't get this psych eval, and I was pretty determined. I was really determined to not get another psych eval, because they're just fishing around. They're hoping they can push you far enough, or that Delara's dad can go behind your back, or somebody can make something come out adverse for you. And so when I finally broke down and got the DCS sent me to who they wanted to send me to, they paid for it, and they were dissatisfied with the results, and they said it didn't make any sense. So, and that's a video. It would have been after December 2018, but before March, the trial in March. There was a hearing, and DCS didn't like my psych eval. That after I got that psych eval, I was supposed to be able to have some what does it say here? It says I was supposed to have a home study, no visitation in my home until I had the home study, and no yeah, at some point I wanted to have an expert witness in my DCS trial to talk about, they're like, oh, we don't believe this. Is the court has the belief, what is it? The court does not feel it needs additional expert testimony to ascertain what should happen if there are visits. Dr. Berryman was very specific previously about what needed to occur if there are visits, and the mother continues to try to wiggle out of orders. So I've listened to everything Calloway Berryman said. It's on recording. She only appeared by phone. It's all on recording. And what she said was, what advice would she give to mom? Is she just said, well, just do what you're supposed to do and follow the orders. That's not specific. Real to me, I mean, and I can't follow orders that are going to hurt my daughter. And do what you're supposed to do. I am doing what I'm supposed to do. I am doing what I'm supposed to do. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. Um,